Thank you very much. I'm really pleased to be involved in this centre because I'm an engineer by background, a mechanical engineer, but I spend a lot of time wanting to collaborate with technical specialists. And so it's really a thrill to have technical specialists come along and say, oh, be involved in a centre that we're involved with. So after I studied mechanical engineering, I worked in the aerospace industry for a while, but I was always really interested in the human-machine interfaces, and that became my interest. So I worked a lot with anthropologists and developed a lot of also design expertise. I was a mechanical engineering designer before I became an interface designer. So I just want to talk about designing human data interaction, and I'm really keen to collaborate with people. I know Elise well, and I'm thrilled that Elise is involved in the centre as well, because we both come from the same field. In particular, I'm interested in co-design, where designers are a source of technology knowledge, design expertise, and facilitation. But we really view people who we're designing with as a source of knowledge about their own practices and motivations. And in co-design, we collaborate on deciding what the real problem is with people, defined by a commitment to principles of pragmatism and power, which is that the power should be a lot with the people who you're designing with and for, rather than the designers themselves. And practically, they know so much about their domain that it's crazy not to work with people. So I just want to give an example about monitoring the elderly. And I know Flora, I was interested in Flora's work on this, and I'd love to collaborate in areas like this. This is a very typical scenario. The scenario is put that the population is aging, and that people need to or want to live alone or independently in their homes. And so we could monitor their data about them, behavioral data, and then as this person's fallen over, there could be someone alerted. But there are problems with this model. Actually, most people don't want to live entirely independently. Interdependence is quite important to people. And some studies show that if you do instrument houses like this, that the children of older people ignore them because they think the system's taking care of them. So yeah, you get the independence, but is that great? So the thing is that as we age, the things that really help us to live a healthy and happy life are being socially and physically active. So, you know, we wanted to think about data in a different way. So taking a co-design approach, and I'm really just using this as an example of one of many projects where we take a co-design approach. We engaged with a lot of older people and undertaken qualitative and design research. And what this might involve is visiting people in their homes, discussing social routines, their favorite things, values and culture, and technology use. And in particular here, we were interested in the Internet of Things and the ways that older people communicate. And this woman, you know, she used the telephone. She did use a computer, but she liked to cover it with a dust cover when she wasn't a 24/7 kind of gal. And but she loved to use her kettles. And to cut a long story short here, we then we designed a thing called a messaging kettle. Now, what this does is there's a kettle mate here, and when the kettle is hot, and it turns out this is on the other side of the world, the kettle mate glows to show that the other person's kettle is hot and they're having a cup of tea. So now the thing about this is this setup is in both places, and you can gather lots of data on kettles and when they're glowing and so on. And there's also a tea box where you can share messages. And typically when you have 3 minutes to make a cup of tea, you have time to write a message. So what happens here is that by connecting people around their routines, it turns out you can actually gather a lot of qualitative data about what's happening in their day. You're sharing information so that it's reciprocal, so that both the older adult and the daughter, this is my mum and my kitchens where we have our kettles connected. You're sharing information. And what we find is that there's a spatial component to the data, that the kitchen is, you feel I feel my mum's presence in the kitchen. My kids will say, "Mum, grandma's kettle's boiling," when they see the light. I like seeing her handwriting. It's like a presidential hotline. It changes the activities in the kitchen. It changes the way you glance at it. You know it's not your boss. It's a dedicated thing for your parent. So it changes the activities in the kitchen, the way that you engage in the kitchen, and the kinds of data that are collected. I know a lot about whether my mother's wellness based on her data being based on information that she sends and data. But the important thing is that older adults are actually really interested in their data. They're interested in data as an aspect of their wellness. And so I think it's very important that we design ways for people to engage with data. So that's one example of a project where we've tried to design a new way of thinking about how we engage with data. We're currently working with radiologists who have a lot of machine learning systems come into radiographic image analysis. But they also collaborate on Radiopedia, a human-to-human interaction to discuss different cases. And we're very interested in how do you help both humans to learn from machine learning data as well as machine learning to learn from machine learning data sets by redesigning the kind of interaction you could have with all of these massive data sets. We've done a lot of work with nature and how do we connect people to nature. You can see here we looked at a number of different machine learning algorithms for detecting the calls of the critically endangered white-bellied heron. And here you can see a spectrogram which shows the sound, and it also shows, it's a representation of long duration data. We can get these spectrograms for months by placing sensors to detect the call of the heron. But from the visual, you can also see things like rain, wind, and from this we detected a heron sound we hadn't heard before, with a stress sound, but that wasn't detected by any of the machine learning. It was only detected by the human interaction with both the machine learning data and the visual data, and also humans knowing the habitat. So taking all of this, we work to design a lot of interfaces to engage kids with, these are all kids in Bhutan, learning about the sound of the heron. And these
just 1 minute, Margot.
Oh, great, I'm nearly done. These birdhouses over on the right, they just play a bird sound of a local bird in your house every 15 minutes. So you gradually learn by seeing and hearing what your local birds are, even though when you go outside you hear and don't see them, or see and don't hear them, and so on. So yeah, I just wanted to say, these are the kinds of things we're interested in. Our indigenous communities want Google Translate for indigenous languages, but that's very sparse data sets. So we need to design better human interaction. And we've done some language interfaces with indigenous communities and also with people with intellectual disabilities. So my real question is, can we design better approaches to gathering data and engaging people with and through their data? And I'd love to understand a sort of combination of design techniques and data science, data mining techniques to do this really effectively. And I'd like to acknowledge all of the participants, collaborators, students and colleagues and funders of our work as well. Thank you.